Welcome back to Telltale Books, and this is celebrating the birthday anniversary of one of my very favorites, Jack Williamson. I am scheduling this video to have its first day be on his birthday, which is April 29th. Jack Williamson was born on April 29th, 1908. He died November 10th, 2006. 98 years old. And this is part of my series of the complete works of Jack Williamson, where I'm doing a deep dive and exploring everything he's written. And this is his third story, a novella published in Science Wonder Stories. It was actually serialized in two parts in the July and August 1929 issues of Science Wonder Stories, and it's titled The Alien Intelligence. In The Alien Intelligence, a man named Winfield comes across a radio message from a friend of his. And the radio message is saying that he's up on a mountain of the moon or something like that it's called, which is actually a crater mountain, probably an extinct volcano. And it's asking him to come and find his friend. And so Winfield does. He gathers some supplies. He goes to this mountain, climbs up the mountain, and then starts climbing down inside the crater. And it's getting dark when he's doing this, and he sees these red lights come out. He studies them and realizes these are flying ships. And then the flying ships start shooting at him, shooting like laser beams or something like that. Heat weapons, whatever. And so he's most of the way down the ladder, fortunately, because it does cause him to lose his grip, and he falls to the ground. He wakes up and he wanders and comes across this group of human beings living in this lost crater valley. And this group of human beings has a beautiful city with crystal palaces. And it's a pretty nice city and a pretty nice group of people, but there are these creatures that come and capture some of them every so often and take them off as slaves. Winfield comes across this, learns that his friend had been in this city and taught a couple of them to speak English. So Winfield was able to communicate with them. They said his friend had wandered off in search of where these creatures are located near this Silver Lake. And the Silver Lake is poisonous. It's actually a chemical that is an energy source, so it will severely burn you if you get it on you. Winfred goes off in search of his friend and, of course, encounters the creatures, encounters their overlords, which are the alien intelligence that have a pretty advanced science, with energy weapons and this special chemical liquid that they use for energy, propels their ships and stuff. And so then there's adventures and wars, and I won't spoil things from there. It's the story overall, which I am doing a very poor job of making sound good. It's a really gripping adventure story. Unlike The Girl from Mars, this story gets back to Williamson's strengths, which are kind of influenced by H.G. Wells and kind of influenced by A. Merritt. This story has a lot similar to The Metal Man in the idea of going to this lost valley and finding these alien creatures with advanced science. Very similar to the Metal Man, except this one it's like Williamson took the idea of his first story and expanded on it to add more people, add more adventures, make the aliens more complicated, put a lot more imagination into it. This is an extremely imaginative story with lots of great visuals, some really well imagined things, some really cool aliens. And it's a fast-paced adventure story, so it's a lot of fun and really moves through. This is a great story. This is everything we love science fiction for. It really is. It's got strong sense of wonder, which has always been Jack Williamson's strongest point. It's got adventure. As much adventure as you get from Star Wars. It's a wonderful story. It's everything you could want in a classic early science fiction story. The characters are not so strong, but back then, no, they didn't write in the pulp magazine science fiction stories. They didn't write really strong characters because they were a lot more focused on the adventure, the action, and the wild science and wild imagination. That's what the authors and readers were there for. So that's what you got. And the characters were just there to move things along. In this case, the characters, they were a little cardboard, but they were okay. I didn't mind them at all. They didn't come across as stupid or dopey or non-essential. Anyway, this is a great early science fiction story. This is where we came from with science fiction, and I love this stuff. Jack Williamson was the best at these types of stories. Nobody could write this like he could. And he continued to write stories like this, even though he got more sophisticated with his science and more sophisticated with his characters and writing. He continued to write this kind of high sense of wonder story all the way to the very end of his life. So this one gets a top tail from me. I loved it. It was amazing. Even though this one had a lot of things in common with the Metal Man, it was a totally different story. It didn't feel like this was just a rehashing. It was a different story. And it was a stronger story than the Metal Man. So I've got to give this very high marks and give this a top tail rating and recommend it to you. If you love that old time classic sense of wonder science fiction, it doesn't get better than this. So if you've read The Alien Intelligence or anything else by Williamson, or just want to say something, please leave your comments. I'll respond with something. If I don't really know what to say, I'll just say thanks or something like that. But otherwise, I will converse with you a little bit on there if you want. I try to give some kind of response to everybody who leaves a comment. And I hope you'll come back for more. The fourth story that Jack Williamson published is called The Second Shell, published in November of 1929. And I will be talking about that after I read it, after about 40 other videos that I have planned. And I hope to see you then.